Part 63. A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 621. A merchant ship with the logo of the Dark World slowly sailed into the bustling port of Avalon. As soon as it stopped, a large number of people came down from the ship and began to unload the goods on the ship at the port. At the same time, there were also docking personnel at the port, who seemed to have been waiting for them for a long time, quickly unloading the goods and pulling them away. Scenes like this happen all the time in the port of Avalon. Then, I saw a few figures walking down from the boat in a hurry. Is this Avalon? This is my first time here, one of the young men, wearing a black hat and aristocratic clothing, said with a smile. There is also a scar on his left eye, but the scar does not affect the handsomeness of this man. He seems to be in his teens, less than 20 years old, and there is still a bit of immaturity between his eyebrows. Sabo, please don't mess around this time, this is not an easy place. A girl followed this figure and warned. Yes, this man is the second in command of the future Revolutionary Army, the Chief of Staff Sabo. He is also the sworn brother of Luffy and Ace. If he is investigated, in terms of his real name, Sabo's full name should be Ultrax Sabo. But at this time, he had lost his memory. When he was young, he went to sea and encountered the Draconian fleet, but was ruthlessly destroyed. Everyone thought he was dead, but in fact, Sabo was rescued by Draco, who happened to be heading to the East China Sea at that time. Then, he grew up in the Revolutionary Army. Having lost his memory, he only remembered that it's called Sob. I can't remember the rest. Crawl, don't be so anxious. Sabo is not a random guy. In the future, I think he will become Durag's most important right-hand man, another strong man said with a smile. Mr. Tiger, you just dote on him too much, and he does mischief a lot, the girl Crawl said. Yes, the person following Sabo was Fisher Tiger, the pioneer who caused the Great Riot in Marijoya and set off many slave liberation movements. At the same time, there was Tiger as well. The slave girl Crawl rescued in Marijoya. Back then, the Sun Pirates led by Tiger suffered heavy losses. In fact, they were betrayed by those in Crawl's hometown. This led to Aaron, the guy, being directly the Navy caught him and imprisoned him in Impelton. Tiger also tried to rob the prison, but was seriously injured and was rescued by the Revolutionary Army. At this point, Tiger was semi-joined the Revolutionary Army, and it was not long. Did not appear on the sea clearly. The Sun Pirates also disbanded, Jinbei joined the King's Shishibukai, and Aaron ran away to the East China Sea. As time passed, the slave girl Kara finally walked towards the path of the Revolutionary Army and reunited with Tiger. Over the years, as the Warhammer pirates have ruled the Dark World, the business of the Dark World has also been expanded by the Warhammer pirates. What? The emergence of financial institutions such as Avalon Dark Bank and the emergence of dark groups have all made the total business volume of the Dark World even larger to a certain extent. And the world is in a state of instability most of the time. Therefore, it also gave the Dark World many new opportunities. The Revolutionary Army is the army and organization led by Durag. They have always been committed to liberating minds, liberating shackles, breaking corruption and degeneration, and establishing a new order. Over the years, the Revolutionary Army is also constantly growing. But at the same time, the Revolutionary Army also needs more funds to support their development. After all, making revolution and being pirates are not that big a deal at the current stage. Difference. All will be classified as illegal and criminal behavior by the world government, and the nature of the crimes committed by the Revolutionary Army is even more unforgivable in the eyes of the world government. Then, making revolution is equivalent to hanging their heads on their waistbands like pirates. Live. Maybe many people want to pursue their ideals, but if they can't eat, what's the use of their ideals? The Revolutionary Army is not a robot, of course it also needs to eat. Making a revolution is equivalent to hanging your head on your belt. How can you work without food? What's more, even a robot needs to burn oil. The Revolutionary Army is getting bigger and bigger, and Iraq needs more and more Baileys. Serious business cannot be done by the Revolutionary Army. A large number of people from the CP organization under the world government are watching them all day long. As a just man, it is impossible to rob all day long, right? Therefore, Darag and the Revolutionary Army, they need a source of funds that is sustainable and stable and not restricted by the world government. Finally, after several choices, the Revolutionary Army decided to get involved in the business of the dark world. Yes, there are many businesses in the dark world now, and the Revolutionary Army they are doing it. But fortunately, Darag and the others still have some bottom line in their hearts. They are not really for Bailey and don't have moral integrity. They hardly touch those messy businesses, and most of them are doing various smuggled goods. It's not that all smuggled goods are dangerous contraband. In fact, in the smuggling market, contraband goods only account for a minority, and the vast majority are ordinary commodities. The main reason why these will flow into the smuggling market in large quantities is because of the squeeze from monopoly giants in the formal market, as well as the heavy taxes from world governments and various countries. Going through formal channels and being squeezed by giants puts you under heavy pressure, and you also have to pay almost fatal taxes. But smuggling is different. Although the risk of smuggling is high, the benefits are relatively much higher. Therefore, many merchants have some connection with the dark world, and they often smuggle some goods for sale. The Revolutionary Army, in the dark world, mostly deals with this kind of smuggling business. However, in the smuggling business, the real boss is the Avalon-type ship King Umit. The Revolutionary Army can barely drink some soup and water. Fortunately, they are not only involved in smuggling. In short, at this stage of the booming development of the dark world, there are still many opportunities. Currently, the Revolutionary Army is doing quite well in business in the dark world and has a stable capital chain to provide them with strength. But Darag will also have worries in his heart. The more you work in the dark world, the more you can appreciate the influence of the Warhammer pirates in the dark world. With the current situation, almost any business in the dark world cannot avoid the influence of the Warhammer pirates. The most direct impact is that the vast majority of people in the dark world will choose Avalon Dark Bank as a fund settlement institution during the transaction process. It has to be said that the emergence of dark banks has reduced the phenomenon of gangsters taking advantage of gangsters in the dark world. Safe, robust, private, and efficient. It is the label of dark bank. In recent years, it has extended its tentacles into all aspects and all walks of life in the dark world. This is what gives Darag a headache. He doesn't want to use Dark Bank as a settlement institution, but he has no choice. After all, he doesn't do business alone. If he doesn't use it, others won't dare to do business with him, fearing that this guy will do something shady and take advantage of others. The use of a dark bank means that the funds of the Revolutionary Army must be transferred through the dark bank. It was as if the Warhammer pirates had tied a dog chain around the Revolutionary Army's neck. Now, there is no conflict between the two sides, Orgrim won't mess around or anything. But if there is any conflict between the Revolutionary Army and Orgrim in the future, this means that Orgrim may turn them into paupers at any time. What's even worse is that he is already aware of this situation. However, Dualag had no choice at all. The Revolutionary Army had few ways to make money, and this kind of stable way to make money was even more scarce. He could not abandon the dark world. The Revolutionary Army cannot do without the dark world. This is so uncomfortable. This time, Sabo and others will come to Avalon. On the one hand, the Revolutionary Army has a batch of goods that they want to take action here, so they come here along the way. On the other hand, it's because Darag also wants to contact Orgrim again to establish emotional feelings. Previously, the struggle for kingship in the New World had come to an end, with Orgrim seizing the pirate kingship. In today's New World, it is said that there is a pattern of 4 emperors, but without one of the 4 emperors, the Warhammer pirates are also the only one. Anyone with a discerning eye can see that Orgrim is the most important will in the New World. The future will inevitably be an era of battle between pirates and navy. Durag believes that among the pirate camp, only Khazgarot Orgrim can truly stand out. That Whitebeard has been defeated and has no chance. As for Crocodile and his like, despite the commotion now, Durag doesn't think Crocodile can outplay Orgrim. After all, Durag has never had a direct conflict with Orgrim. But it can be regarded as some overt and covert fighting. The Revolutionary Army was completely tortured in front of the Warhammer pirates. Of course he knew how difficult Orgrim was, so he naturally didn't think highly of Crocodile. Then, Durag believes that Orgrim is the protagonist of the next era. In the era of competition between pirates and navy, at least the pirate camp, in all likelihood, he will be the representative. This is also an opportunity for the Revolutionary Army. If the pirates really take down the navy, the world government will also be severely weakened. Isn't this a great thing for their Revolutionary Army? Then it is necessary to contact Orgrim to establish emotions. Mr. Tiger, how is your relationship with that Orgrim? Really able? Sabo asked with a smile. But he didn't even finish his words. The super-large island of Avalon suddenly trembled. The ground in the port has a bouncing feeling. It's only a moment, but this feeling is absolutely right. Earthquake, Saab looked around in surprise. He found that many workers on the dock just paused for a moment, and then quickly continued working as if they were no longer surprised. Tiger was also a little surprised. I haven't been back to Avalon for a long time. But I've never heard of earthquakes in Avalon before? Isn't the sea area one of the rare stable sea areas in the New World? Dude, what just happened? Tiger asked an uncle who was counting goods at the port. The uncle who was counting goods said nonchalantly, it's nothing. It's a common thing these days. It happens at every turn. After a short pause, the uncle continued, it is said that it was caused by Master Chui's power accidentally overflowing. It is really powerful. How powerful must it be to make the entire island tremble inadvertently? You know, our Avalon is a very large island. Tiger and others were all stunned. Didn't you Orgrim eat the impact fruit? What's happening here? Are you running towards the Zhen fruit? But then I thought about it. Shock and vibration are inherently entangled with each other, and conceptually, they also have a lot in common. It doesn't seem surprising that Orgrim's abilities will awaken and he will perform some weird things. If this happens often, won't the building collapse? Kral said with some surprise. The uncle rolled his eyes at Kral and said, little girl, is this your first time coming to Avalon? Our buildings in Avalon are first-class solid. This is the fortified city built by the strong men of Fishman Island. Ha 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 ha, you are right, the construction quality of Avalon is quite high. Tiger also laughed. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 622. In the courtyard of Orgrim. At this time Orgrim was sitting on a chair in the courtyard, holding a teacup in one hand and drinking tea. The other hand was held flat and stretched out, with the fingers spread out. A transparent energy was constantly compressing and expanding in his palm. That is the power of impacting the fruit. After awakening his ability, Orgrim also studied his power. But after researching and researching, he found that his ability could not affect the surrounding materials like most superhuman ability users who awakened. For example, Doflamingo's energy awakening can turn everything around him into the power of threads. To some extent, it is not very different from the natural system. However, Orgrim can still understand this. After all, if he could turn things around him into shocks, that would be a bit too mysterious. But soon Orgrim found that he became freer by releasing the power of the impact. He can make the impact happen out of thin air and appear wherever he wants. For example, if he snaps his fingers, the birds in the sky will be directly hit by the impact. This is an improvement. But that's all. As for the power and penetration of the impact, it goes without saying. It has improved a lot previously. When they were on Butter Island, Kaido and himself had no way to deal with Newgate's extremely strong defense after awakening. But now, Orgrim's impact has been able to penetrate Newgate's strong defense. Orgrim deduced from this that it was almost impossible for someone who could withstand his attack power to exist on the sea. However, it is impossible to say so absolutely. After all, there are still many people with strange abilities. The future Bartolomeo will be a barrier fruit user. Orgrim doesn't know what the concept of his barrier fruit is, but it must be related to the rule system, right? The concept of barrier inherently has the meaning of being solid and unbreakable. If developed properly, it can be said to be quite powerful in terms of defense. Perhaps, that ability can withstand one's own impact to a certain extent. But everything is relative. When the strength gap is too large, the barrier can also be broken. Isn't it? But thinking about it, Bartolomeo's abilities are quite well developed. He could easily defend against the King's Fist, which was said to be able to defeat the 4 emperors with one punch, so he must be exceptional. In recent days, when Orgrim is free, he will also study the awakening of his abilities as he does now. Therefore, Avalon Island will tremble from time to time. This is precisely because of the powerful power that overflows after his energy awakens. As soon as he put down the teacup in his hand, Orgrim's eyes flashed, and his palm, which was gathering the power of impact, slapped it towards the table with his backhand. At this time, there was a square solid iron block placed on the table. After Orgrim's impact force covered it, the iron block trembled slightly, and then quickly turned into powder like iron sand. The solid iron block turned into powder, but on the contrary, the fragile and unstable wooden table had no problem at all. Not even a crack appeared. But the next moment, the entire Avalon trembled again. The power in Orgrim's body swelled for a moment, then dissipated. Sure enough, it has become somewhat similar to the power of the old guy in Newgate's shock fruit, however, it is only similar. Orgrim murmured softly. It seemed like a vibrating force, but in fact, Orgrim could feel that it was an impact force, which became more detailed. In the past, Orgrim used the power of my own impact is simple and crude. It is enough to blow out all my abilities in one go and vent them out. But now, it seems that the power of impact just held in my hand is made up of thousands of tiny shock waves. It is composed of. It can cause great damage at a more detailed level that is invisible to the naked eye. In the past, if Orgrim slapped the iron block, the scene that would most likely occur would be that the iron block would be directly impacted. The force blew up and deformed. But now, it has been directly turned into powder. And the table has not been lost at all. It can be seen how finely Orgrim controls the power. According to this concept, if I can't guard against this punch, wouldn't it lead to a comminuted fracture? Orgrim touched his chin and muttered to himself. Just when he was thinking about all this, the door of the room on the left side of the courtyard was opened. Then, Robin's slim figure emerged came out. Are you at home? Orgrim said with some surprise. In his own station, Orgrim would naturally not do anything random. Therefore, he did not know whether there was anyone in the courtyard. But a few days ago, oh my God, Robin always took her mother Orbia around Avalon early in the morning. So Orgrim just thought that Robin had gone out today and was not at home. Didn't expect Robin to be here? Robin stretched out his hand to hold the flat glasses frame on the bridge of his nose, grinned with a coquettish smile, and said, "Is it weird that I'm at home?" "Gee ha 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 ha, a little bit. What about Albia? Are you not together today?" A bit unexpected, Orgrim asked. As for Mom, she said she was going to look at the books in the big library this morning. Reading requires concentration and quietness, so I didn't bother her, Robin said softly. After a slight pause, Robin continued, of course, she only has the power to enter the first floor, but she can't enter the upper 2 floors. Public is public, private is private. Robin still knows this clearly. The Great Library of Avalon is truly priceless. The first floor, to say the least, contains many rare books and materials. But that is still relatively shallow, and most of it is only helpful to scholars. But the concepts on the second and third floors are different. On the second floor, there are many confidential things, such as the Devil Fruit illustrated book. It's stored on the second floor. This thing is naturally not a rarity for top bosses like Orgrim. But don't forget that when Ogrim didn't join Shiji's banner, this kind of thing is hard to find for Grim. Therefore, it can also be seen that the second floor of the big library contains information that is very valuable to ordinary people and ordinary forces. The third floor, not to mention, unless some people from the Warhammer Pirates have made great achievements, the third floor is a place that only the core members of the Warhammer Pirates can enter. There are the things are real treasures, such as Orgrim's Domineering Practice Manual, Dr. Nightingale's Medical Encyclopedia, Caesar's Dark Research Materials. There are even Mihawk's True Explanations of Swordsmanship, and all major cotters have them. There are supplements inside. Even Boss Shiji has original works in it. In addition, there are also historical texts. There are a few pieces of ordinary historical texts, such as those on Sky Island. A piece of history that was originally in the hands of Boss Shiji has now fallen into the hands of Orgrim. The historical text in the Forest of the Sea on Fishman Island was also sent here. Apart from the ordinary history, in addition to the text, there is also a historical text of road signs that countless people on the sea want to find, and there are 2 pieces. You can imagine how many secrets there are in it. Gee ha 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 ha, no need to explain anything, we can naturally trust you. Orgrim smiled and waved his hands. He did not doubt Robin. If he suspected that Robin would reveal some secrets of the Warhammer Pirates, Orgrim would not let Robin and Albia meet. Because Orgrim knew that Orbia would leave. However, Orgrim chose to trust Robin in the end. After so many years of companionship and living together, Orgrim had already regarded Robin as an important family member. Robin will definitely not betray him. Robin smiled, and then asked, "What are you doing?" "I took a nap and was woken up by you several times." "I really didn't know you were sleeping," Orgrim said with some embarrassment. After a pause, Orgrim said again, "Think about your abilities. You are so strong and you are still thinking about your abilities." Robin said, a little surprised. "There is also a difference between limit and extreme," Orgrim said softly, and after thinking about it, he added, "The reason why I can reach the limit now is because of the power of the night. I want to give it a try. If I put aside the power of the night, I can in daylight. Can we reach the limit? If it can be done, perhaps when darkness falls, can I briefly use the power to break through the limits? Maybe at that point, I will be truly invincible, right? If it really comes to that time, it will be impossible to double the limit. Using the power of the night to cheat, I'm afraid it won't be possible. Because the limit of power that the world can accommodate lies at there." When he and Newgate joined forces, they broke through the limit for a moment, but it was just that moment. The world's counterattack came very quickly, directly blowing up Orgrim and Newgate. Therefore, Orgrim does not expect to be able to reach the limit at the same time. The night falls, double the limit power, and use it unscrupulously in the dark night. This is obviously impossible. If he can really achieve this level, I'm afraid the world won't be able to tolerate him. According to the formula of fantasy novels, then he should be promoted to immortality. Orgrim just wanted to try and see if he could withstand the world's counterattack for a short time. Break through the limit. If possible, even if someone in the future can reach the other side like him, then he will still have the strength to stand at the top. It's really scary for someone who is so powerful like you to study so hard, Robin said jokingly. Orgrim smiled, picked up the teacup on the table, took a sip and said, "Don't talk about me, but you. If I guessed correctly, Albia will leave, right?" Robin listened. After saying this, there was a little silence. After a long time, she said with a somewhat complicated expression, "Mom, will leave," she said. "She is a person swallowed by hatred and darkness. Obviously, I should feel the same way about this kind of thing, but for some reason, I don't have that kind of hatred. I always feel that I feel sorry for my mother and sorry for O'Hara. Well, this kind of thing, how should I put it, the encounters are different, but just because you are not burdened with hatred that is so strong that it cannot be resolved, Orbia, you must be very happy, right? I'm glad you're not consumed by hatred like her." Orgrim thought for a while and said. Albia was already an adult before O'Hara was destroyed, and she had her own mature concepts. Robin was different. Before that, she was just a little lowly. That's all. After the destruction of O'Hara, Albia was forced to a dead end by the world government. She probably experienced a lot of suffering. These sufferings will also turn into the nourishment of hatred and nourish the seeds of hatred buried in her heart. But Robin was different. She was taken by Orgrim. She ate well, drank well, and lived a good life. During that time, Orgrim also caused trouble for the world government. It can be regarded as venting a lot of hatred. The environment and atmosphere have affected Robin's growth, so she and Orbia have embarked on two different paths. "Well, Mom is glad I didn't end up like her," Robin said with a somewhat complicated expression. "Therefore, she will take revenge. With me, she cannot borrow the power of revenge, so she will leave. How about you?" "Robin?" Orgrim asked very casually. Judging from his tone, it seemed that this question was not so serious. Robin also had a smile on his face and said matter-of-factly, "Of course I do." "Will you stay?" "What? You want to drive me away?" "Let me tell you, Orgrim, ever since you were nosy in O'Hara and rescued me, you will be responsible for my whole life. Don't try to throw me away." Orgrim looked at Robin, who suddenly made a bold statement with some surprise. After being stunned for a moment, he laughed again. "Then I really don't know if I'm unlucky or lucky, gee ha 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 ha." Orgrim laughed. "You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment." A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 623. Sitting next to Orgrim, Robin also poured himself a cup of tea. After picking it up and taking a sip, she asked, "Where are Sister Stussy and Hancock? Why didn't you see them?" Generally speaking, as long as Orgrim was at home, Stussy was almost always at home. "We won't get tired of being together. Orgrim will drink tea, read newspapers, and read books. Stussy would be gardening and pruning her beloved weeds in the yard, or doing some housework. Hancock's words, unless she has something to go to Amazon Lily, or goes to sea. Anyway, after she moved here, she would stay by Orgrim's side whenever she had nothing to do. Sometimes, she could even spend the whole morning watching Orgrim in a daze. Orgrim was obviously sitting in the courtyard today, but Stussy and Hancock were not there. This makes Robin a little confused. Ah, the two of them said they were going out for a walk and shopping. It seems that a new batch of top-quality deep-sea gems arrived from the deep-sea free trade zone today from Fishman Island. Stussy said she wanted to give you some jewelry, but she thought you were not at home, so she went with Hancock. Orgrim smiled and said. In fact, like in Avalon, every time something rare or something is transported to the island, the first one to know about it is the big boss of the Warhammer pirates. They Those who can circulate in the market have been screened by big guys like them. However, Stussy and Hancock rarely directly choose anything. In contrast, Stussy prefers to go shopping outside, looking for the novelty that you can discover by yourself. Maybe this is the nature of women. I see. Why didn't you follow? Didn't you always like to follow me in the past? Robin asked. Orgrim smiled and said, I have something to do today. Teazero will come to see me later. Mr. Tetzalo? Robin was stunned for a moment, and then said Golden City. Gee ha 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 ha, yes, the construction of the Golden City has been completed, and the environment is being cleaned. Tetzalo is going to report on the work. If nothing unexpected happens, in a few days, Golden City will open for business. Orgrim laughed. This is really expected, Robin said with a smile. When it opens, you can all go and have a look and see what the so-called world's first entertainment city built by Tetzalo is like. Orgrim smiled and said. And you? You don't want to go? Robin asked with some surprise. As for me, I won't go to the opening, right? Although it is an industry owned by myself, it does cooperate with the world government after all. It seems a bit cheap for me to go alone, but it has not been confirmed yet. I will contact the Wulaoxing side if they are willing to send some of sufficient weight. If you want people to participate, I might come forward, Orgrim thought for a while and then said. Sufficient portion, what level is enough? Could it be that the 5 old stars were present in person? That's not very likely. Robin asked with a smile. The 5 old stars will definitely not come, but I think if I want to appear, at least the Navy must have some generals and marshals in place, right? If the Sengoku guy doesn't come, I won't go until there are at least 2 generals. Otherwise, let them play by themselves. I'll go to Maragio for tea. Orgrim said with a smile. It seemed that in his mouth, the marshals and generals of the Navy were just like little people who could be arranged at will. The tone was really big enough. At the same time, in the deep-sea free trade of Avalon district, Queen Stussy and Hancock were strolling around here holding hands. And following them, there were Sphinx, Runty, and Yamato. The Sphinx stayed in front of a merchant's stall. He reached out and poked the shell that was spitting bubbles in the pool in front of him. There was a piece of shell meat squirming in the shell, and it was wrapped with a colorful pearl. The Sphinx poked the shell. Meat, the shell closed, and the pearl was invisible. After a while, it opened again, and the Sphinx poked again. She looked very interested, while the shop owner looked at the scene very embarrassed. If ordinary customers were here to play with him by poking shells and disrupting business, he would have kicked them away. But these few in front of him are the top bosses in Avalon. They can't be offended, they can't be offended. Yamato, this is so interesting, the Sphinx poked again and said with a laugh. Yamato looked at the Sphinx helplessly and said, where is the fun? There is a deep-sea mineral store over there. It is said that some particularly rare minerals are often sold there. I want to go there and have a look. If I come across something good, I will buy it. Runty bit a lollipop in her mouth and asked, why did you buy those rocks? My mace feels a little light recently. I'm going to replace it with another one. Yamato didn't avoid anything and spoke directly. Yeah, Runty didn't ask any more questions. Instead, the Sphinx asked while poking the shell's flesh, by the way, Yamato, Andre seems to have arrived in the North Sea. Aren't you going to find him? Yamato was stunned for a moment, then said, don't be so anxious, right, he is just going to be a trainee crew member on Aunt Neiman's ship. I will go when he can go to sea on his own. At the same time, Queen Stussy, who was chatting and laughing with Hancock, finally noticed these little guys. Especially the disrespectful behavior of the Sphinx. This made the Queen a little funny. She took 2 steps forward, reached out, and knocked the Sphinx on the head and said, Sphinx, Don't be ridiculous. Sphinx covered her head and looked at Stussy with some grievance. Stussy smiled again and said, "Shop, how do you sell this?" "Ah, your lady queen, you can just take this, why are you selling it?" "We all rely on the protection of your Warhammer pirates to survive," the shop owner quickly spoke. Her Majesty the Queen shook her head and said with a smile, "This is not okay. For Avalon, our behavior is not a good thing." "Well, it looks pretty good from the looks of it, but it's not very big." Stussy made an estimate, then took out a checkbook from her handbag, wrote a random number on it, pulled it off, handed it to the store owner and said, "Do you think this is enough?" the store owner asked. Looking at the number, his face was filled with joy and he said, "That's enough, it's an extra 30% of the price. The extra money should be regarded as compensation for the rude behavior of my SPHYNX just now," Queen Stussy said with a smile. The shop owner quickly said, "In other words, Master Sphinx has done nothing wrong." After hearing this, Sphinx also puffed up her chest and said confidently, "That's right, Stussy, I didn't do anything wrong. Just pretend." Stussy said with a smile. "Does it need to be dismantled?" "Want pearls or together?" the shop owner asked quickly. Before Stussy could say anything, the Sphinx shouted, "Together, together, I want to live, I want to raise this guy, poke him a few times a day." Queen Stussy glanced at the Sphinx helplessly, then shook her head and said to the shop owner dotingly, "Please give us a living." No trouble," the shop owner said quickly. Looking at the opening and closing shells in the water bag in his hand, the Sphinx walked and said with satisfaction, "Stussy, you are such a good person, thank you very much." Stussy also smiled and said, "You guys too, just tell me what you want to buy. I'm here to treat you today." "Oh! Long live Stussy," Runty shouted happily. In fact, their living conditions and pocket money are very generous. Especially Sphinx, who looks like a lowly but is actually a leader of the Warhammer pirates. She herself is a real rich man. He has a lot of money. With the huge dividends from the Warhammer pirates, there is no need to worry about running out of money. But if Queen Stussy pays for it, it will be a different mood. It is always a good thing to be given gifts or something by others. Well. As for Robin, what kind of jewelry does she like? Hancock asked while holding Queen Stussy's arm. After a slight pause, she continued to herself, "That kind of steady and mature one, right, I feel that Robin is very suitable for that style. She has always given me the impression that she is this kind of trustworthy scholar, some type of..." But as soon as Hancock finished speaking, Yamato, Sphinx and the Queen all looked at him with somewhat funny eyes. On the contrary, Runty nodded in agreement and said, "Yes, Loto's sister Ben feels very mature." "Ha ha ha ha, don't you understand this? Robin-chan, what she likes is the kind of novelty, her taste, it's really hard to put into words," the Sphinx laughed. Queen Stussy couldn't help but nodded and said, "Maybe you don't know yet, Robin has a pet in the house." "Pet?" Hancock was stunned for a moment. "She has moved here for a while, but why has she never seen Robin's pet?" "Yeah, a black man-faced spider, it's in her house," her lady queen said with a smile. Everyone in Hancock was dumbfounded. Robin, who seemed gentle and quiet, actually raised a human-faced spider? This kind of spider, in its mature form, has a head as big as someone's. It looks like, I feel sick, let alone keeping it at home. So if you want to buy a gift for Robin, you should buy something that is curious, dark, and ugly. Anyway, it's something that we think no one will buy, and Robin will definitely like it." The Sphinx introduced it like an old-timer. "I see." Hancock quickly took out a small notebook from his body and wrote it down. "Just like this." The Sphinx looked around. Then he ran a few steps forward and said to a figure, "Sorry, lend me your water pipe." After saying that, this guy went up and snatched the water pipe away regardless of whether he agreed or not. He ran back to Stussy and the others in a few steps and said, "Look, if the head of this water pipe is inlaid with a green emerald or something, give it to Robin. Maybe it's a good fit and she'll like it. Isn't it?" "This," Hancock said, a little embarrassed. "What is this? What a useless thing." On the other side, Sabo looked at his hands in confusion. "I was shopping here, learning about the customs of Avalon, and someone snatched the weapon from my hand on the road. They say Avalon is a lawless island with no rules, and it seems to be true. But, there are so many people with swords and other things hanging on their waists. Why do you insist on grabbing my most inconspicuous water pipe?" What surprised Sabo even more was that he couldn't win over the little loli who came to grab the water pipe just now. She just snatched his water pipe away. What is this power? Because there were so many people here, Sabo didn't see the Sphinx's face clearly and didn't recognize it. That was the leader of the Warhammer pirates. "What's wrong?" Sob, Tiger, who was walking in front, looked back and asked with a smile. "My weapon was stolen," Sabo said, a little embarrassed. Tiger was also stunned for a moment, followed Sabo's line of sight, and then said with joy on his face, "It's Queen Stussy and the others. Ah, isn't that Hancock?" With a smile on his face, Tiger said to the other side, "Hancock, Mr. Stussy." Hearing the call, Hancock and Stussy also turned their heads and looked over there. Stussy had a hint of surprise in his eyes and said with a smile, "Mr. Tiger? It's been a long time since I last saw you." Hancock was very excited, waving his hands and saying, "Lord Ge. She still respects Tiger very much. After all, Tiger personally rescued the three sisters from the hell of Marijoya. It's the end of the month, please give me some flowers and monthly passes, bosses." A Sledgehammer Breaks into Pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 624. Walking through the garden of the palace, Tetsalo was smiling and chatting with Rengar next to him. At the same time, Stella also held his arm and followed them with a smile on her face. "Damn it, you guy, you really never forget to take beautiful Stella with you at all times. Isn't this too much?" Rengar complained as he walked. Tetsalo said with a smile, "Is there anything wrong with this? Of course that's not right. You should also take care of the feelings of us singles. Every time I go to see Mr. Chewy, I have to eat Mr. Chewy's dog food. Now that I'm taking you with me, I have to eat your dog food again. Fortunately that guy from Dover isn't here, otherwise I wouldn't be able to get through this day," Rengar complained. "Is this really the case? Should we be blamed for this kind of thing? Rengar, you are a senior official. If you want to start a family, you can do it at any time, right?" Tezalo asked with a smile. Rengar waved his hand and said, "It's not that simple. I was very busy before. In the past 2 years, I have become a little more leisurely. Moreover, there are so many suitable women. Ah, Stella, if you have a chance, please introduce me to some beautiful girls. Speaking of which, there is indeed a very good girl in our Golden City, and she is single," Stella smiled and said. Rengar was stunned for a moment, then his face lit up and he said, "Really? It's true, but that girl admires Lord Orgrim very much." "I think you have no chance," Tezalo said with a smile. "Hey, you're a bit offensive. There are so many women who worship Mr. Chewy. It's impossible that we don't all have a chance, right? Stella, do you admire Lord Hammer?" Rengar asked. "Certainly," Stella said without hesitation. But after smiling, she added, "But although I feel that Lord Orgrim is more powerful, the one I admire most is my Tezalo." As soon as she finished speaking, Tetsalo looked at Rengar with a proud look on his face and said, "Did you see it?" Whispering sound, Rengar muttered something dissatisfied. Tetsalo asked, "By the way, you just said that you have some free time." When the topic changed, Rengar didn't pay attention to anything, and continued, "Well, during this period, I have a lot of free time, especially after the war. The black-robed pickets had little to do. Previously, Rengar was responsible for clearing away any opposition to the Warhammer pirates in Avalon and several surrounding islands. Catch and kill all the traitors who oppose the rule of the Warhammer pirates and Orgrim's will. In the first few years, the black-robed pickets had a heavy workload. Because there are many such opposition forces in Avalon and the surrounding islands. At every turn, there will be unrest. Rengar often carries out large-scale purges here. Sometimes, tens of thousands of people are arrested and killed in one breath. You can imagine how bloody it was at that time. However, as time goes by, the Warhammer pirates' dominance here becomes stronger and stronger, and their foundation becomes more and more stable. The development of Avalon and the Evernight Sea is getting more and more powerful. After everyone enjoyed the dividends brought by the Warhammer pirates, the voice and power of this opposition quickly dissipated. Nowadays, it is almost difficult to find opposition members with evil intentions. Extinct. As for the other ordinary rebellious parties, they are not under the control of their black-robed pickets. The Ministry of Intelligence has its own forces to investigate spies and the like, and there are also patrol units to deal with general security issues. Their violent organization, similar to the Gestapo, has lost its usefulness. So Rengar is very free now and has nothing to do. That's true. After all, there are very few voices against us in Avalon now. Occasionally, if someone says something like this, you probably don't need to take action. The people around will catch him and twist him and send him to your side, right? Tzalo asked with a smile. Yes. Rengar nodded. This kind of thing happened not only once or twice, but often. Mainly because of the high-pressure policies of the Warhammer pirates in Avalon. For example, sitting in a row or something. If something goes wrong, you know, this kind of thing, and there is no report or anything else, then if this gangster is caught, you, the innocent people, will be imprisoned together. Maybe after these innocent people are investigated clearly, they will not be prosecuted, you will be beheaded, but you will definitely suffer. In the past, this kind of thing happened a lot. Now everyone is living a good life. If such a person really appears around you, he will not be polite to you or anything, and will be arrested directly. At worst, you have to report them. This makes the black-robed pickets even less useful. Then why don't you apply to Mr. Hammer to be transferred away from Avalon? Tzalo said quickly. Transferred from Avalon? Rengar was stunned for a moment, then he touched his chin and asked, what do you mean? That's right, come to my Golden City. Nowadays, the Golden City has not opened yet, but it is ready. We are waiting for Master Chui to speak. Once the Golden City opens, as the world's largest neutral zone and entertainment city, the flow of people will definitely be extremely terrifying, especially now. Now, the war has come to an end, peace will come briefly, and the previous depression will lead to retaliatory consumption. By then, the Golden City will definitely be one of the central areas where wealth gathers. In this case, there will be no unscrupulous people targeting the Golden City. If your black-robed pickets were stationed in Golden City, I would be much more relieved, Tzalo explained with a smile. After a slight pause, Tzalo added, moreover, the Golden City also needs a powerful force to be in charge. After all, it is a neutral zone, and it needs a force that can maintain neutrality. Even though our Warhammer pirates are famous, it's not impossible if there is a madman. Although my strength is passable, I can't compare to a violent person like you. Rengar didn't care about the discussion and teasing him as a violent element. After all, he is indeed very violent. His reputation as the Bloody Hand Lion is not for nothing. Among the Warhammer pirates, in terms of the number of people killed, even Orgrim may not be able to catch up with him. It seems to make sense, Rengar thought. Ha 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 ha, as long as you have the intention, I will ask Master Zui what he means when I meet him. Tzalo said with a laugh. Good. Rengar nodded. While talking and laughing, Tetsalo and Rengar arrived at the gate of Orgrim's courtyard. As soon as the three of them entered, they saw the big boss Orgrim. He was talking to Robin, both of them had smiles on their faces, looking very harmonious. Really, you spider, but don't let it run out of the house, otherwise I'm afraid I'll beat it to death if I can't help it, Orgrim waved his hand and said. Zuzu is so cute, why do you want to kill it? I am also planning to find a male soon and give her a mate, Robin said with some dissatisfaction. What? Match 1? No, I beg you, Orgrim said quickly. When he thought about the feeling of millions of little spiders attached to the mother spider, his scalp went numb. Why? Robin asked with some confusion. I really can't stand it. This one is the limit of what I can endure. Haven't you noticed that I never come within 3 meters of your house? Don't you ever go in? If there really is a match and there are thousands of little spiders, I must move, and I will give this yard to you, Orgrim said without hesitation. Robin was stunned for a moment, and then she realized that it seemed that Orgrim had never been near her house, let alone sat in it. In the past, she thought Orgrim was trying to avoid suspicion. After all, she was a girl or something. Now, she finally understood the reason. Not as good as, let Zuzu go free, in this case, Orgrim will probably enter my house, Robin suddenly thought in her heart. She didn't even notice that in order to take care of Orgrim's feelings, in order to be closer to Orgrim, she was willing to give up the person she had raised for many years. The face spider is released. At the same time, Orgrim also heard the movement at the door of the courtyard. He turned around and said with a smile, "Oh, Tezalo, Stella, you are here, Rengar, come in and sit down." Mr. Hammer, Tezaro and others said hello to Orgrim. There is nothing polite about it. In the early years, Tezaro was very reserved towards Orgrim. However, as the frequency and number of contacts increased, he finally understood Master Chui's character and temper. Knowing that Mr. Chui didn't like his people to be too restrained in front of him, he let himself go. Now, it's much more casual. In the courtyard, there are tables and chairs, where Orgrim occasionally communicates with everyone. Tetsalo, Stella, and Rengar had just sat down. Robin picked up the teapot on the table and poured tea for several people. Tezaro smiled at Robin and said, "I really envy Master Hammer. The Queen is not here, but Miss Robin is still taking care of her." Robin's face turned slightly red, but he didn't say anything. Orgrim laughed and said, "Gee ha 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 ha, aren't you afraid that Stella will deal with you?" Stella said with a smile, "Our Tezaro is not as carefree as Mr. Hammer." Orgrim pretended to be dissatisfied and said, "I have no intentions, but Stella, you have to be careful to keep an eye on Tezalo. On the surface, the more honest man looks, secretly, tisk tisk." Yes, Stella, there are two types of men, one is a lustful man, and the other is a very lustful man, Rengar also joked beside him. In the past, Orgrim would rarely be in the yard and make such a coloring joke. But now, the yard is full of adults, so it's no big deal. Hey. Don't talk nonsense, I'm different from you, Tezalo said quickly. He was afraid that Stella would go back to deal with him. Ha 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 ha, everyone started laughing, even Robin had a smile on his lips. After putting down the teapot, Robin glanced at Orgrim, who was joking with Tezalo and the others, and thought to himself, there are two types of men. How about it? Everything in Golden City has been arranged? Orgrim asked. After hearing this, Tetsalo also got to the point and said, "Yes, the whole thing has been completed. When I came out, I was doing the final comprehensive cleaning work. It can be opened at any time." Well, very good. The Golden City is related to another channel and important source of our capital income outside the dark world. It is also a project in cooperation with the world government. It is a top priority. Once it opens, do you want Tetsalo? More snacks? Orgrim warned. Yes, Master Chui, don't worry, Tzalo responded without hesitation. As the person in charge, of course he is well aware of the importance of the Golden City. It is easier to say about the sources of funds and new channels. The most important thing is that it is related to the world. Government cooperation. There is a great symbolic meaning in this. Perhaps it represents the will of both parties on certain macro matters. The combination of light and shadow. By the way, Master Hammer, if you are not going to arrange any new tasks for Rengar, why not ask him to come back to the Golden City with me? Tzaro said. After hearing this, Orgrim glanced at Rengar, and then asked, is it okay? Orgrim really didn't know much about the black robe pickets. Rengar said without hesitation, okay. For this kind of thing, you can just discuss and arrange it yourself. There is no need to ask me everything, Orgrim smiled and waved his hands. Orgrim gave his cotters a lot of freedom. After all, they were pirates. Not the navy. As long as there are no problems and the problem can be solved, the rest can be done freely. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 625. In the palace where government affairs are handled, Beckman is closing the documents on the table. Mr. Beckman, would you like some coffee? Reiju asked with a smile. At this time, Reiju was wearing a black women's suit. She looked like a little secretary. In fact, Reiju was really Beckman's secretary. She was taken by Beckman. Now, I have begun to participate in the affairs of the Warhammer Pirates. In fact, the Warhammer Pirates also have a secret and inconspicuous department, that is, the Secretariat. Every major executive in Avalon is accompanied by a beautiful secretary. The person in charge of the Secretariat is Monet, the exchange student that the Don Quixote family exchanged with Orgrim. However, because Orgrim rarely takes care of things, Monet does not often follow Orgrim. Reem's side. Most of the time, she stays in her office, arranging work for her secretaries. He, let's have a drink, Beckman smiled and said. I want to show you my craftsmanship, Reiju also smiled and said. At this moment, Plank stepped in from the door. As if he had heard the conversation inside, Plank said, please come too. 1 cup, please. Our lovely Miss Reiju. Of course, no problem, our handsome Uncle Gangplank. Reiju responded with a smile. Plank put on a distressed look, covering his heart, and said, it's too much. He is a gentleman to Beckman, but he is an uncle to me, hateful. Reiju's face turned red, but she didn't say anything and hurriedly went to make coffee. Beckman said, okay, you know how to bully our Reiju. Ha 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 ha, second master, tisk. Gangplank raised his eyebrows and made a face. Beckman had no intention of answering him and asked, what happened? Well, it's a big deal, but it's not a big deal. That crocodile guy really brought Alabasta to the New World. There was already sighting information just now. It seems that he is still in the New World portal. See, with the G-5 Navy we had a fight, but it was still fun and there wasn't much of a conflict, Plank said. Crocodile has entered a new world. Beckman was stunned for a moment and said. Yes, didn't you want me to keep an eye on him? I'm not here to report to you. Plank nodded and said. At this time, Reiju also brewed 2 cups of coffee and placed them on the table. Plank picked up the coffee and took a sip without fear of burning it. Beckman thought for a while. Finally, he asked, have you found the fugitive princess of the Nefertali clan? Not yet, but there is some progress. The little princess seems to have escaped to the East China Sea, Plank said. East China Sea, Beckman rubbed his chin and thought for a while, then said, it's a good place. The East China Sea is the Navy's territory. It's difficult for Crocodile to reach out, safety is very safe. Yes, it's safe. Without going to the East China Sea, it's hard to organize any force. I don't know what the little princess has planned. Is she ready to just give up and live her life in peace, or is she still looking for Croc Doll's revenge? Plank smacked his lips. Regardless of these are not things that her will can change. When we need her, even if she doesn't want revenge, she will stand up as a flag for me and take revenge. Beckman smiled and said. Well, I will send people to continue looking. Aaron still has some strength over there, so let him get something to eat, Plank said. By the way, speaking of that boy Aaron, he contacted the Sphinx not long ago. The Sphinx said that he would be back soon, bringing the little girl Orgrim mentioned, a genius navigator or something. Beckman picked up the coffee and took a sip. I remember, her name was Nami? Plank asked first, and then without waiting for Beckman to answer, he said it seems that Mr. Hammer has already made arrangements. His Royal Highness's team. Pretty much, Yamato, Runty, Peggywan, I don't know if Lucci counts, but now I have found a talented navigator from the East China Sea. At least the team at the beginning has been formed. What will happen in the future depends on Andre's own ability. It is always impossible. With everything arranged for him, what's the point of going to sea? It makes no sense anymore, Beckman nodded and said. Yes, when going out to sea for adventure, you still have to use your own strength and find your own destiny and like-minded partners, just like us. Plank said with a smile. After finishing these digressions, Beckman said with a smile, we still have to keep an eye on Crocodile. Didn't that guy say that he will come after entering the New World, visit Orgrim? Wait and see, look at his attitude. Well, I get it. Plank nodded. Beckman seemed to be interested. He took a sip of coffee and said, 2 hands. I won't lose again this time. Plank said without hesitation. Ha 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 ha, Reiju, please take my chessboard. I'll play 2 games with this arrogant bastard, Beckman laughed. Meanwhile, Holy Land Marijoa. Wulaoxing also just hung up the phone. They had just received a phone bug signal from Orgrim a few minutes ago. I originally thought that Orgrim was just saying hello and was going to come to Marijoa for tea. It turned out not to be. It was a business matter. Orgrim told them that the construction of the Golden City that both parties had invested in had been completed. Then, they set a date for opening. Then Orgrim asked the 5 old stars if they wanted to take a look. There is no doubt that the 5 old stars all rejected this proposal. With their status, they are indeed not suitable to show up, let alone running around on the sea. Marijoa is where they should be. Orgrim is such a bastard, the bald king said a little funny. After hearing that he and others were not going, the guy from Orgrim also said that he was not going either. Unless there are enough people there to show up. Wasn't he the most shameless guy before? Are you starting to save face now? The blonde man also said a little funny. Don't really think that he has started to pay attention to his image. If he has any vital interests, I think he is still the shameless Orgrim. The bearded man shook his head and said. However, the Golden City is also a relatively important project. The opening does require some signage to prove that the neutral zone here is recognized by both of us, the bald king thought for a while and said. For the world government, the Golden City not only facilitates money laundering, it is also a cooperative project with strong symbolic meaning. Now the chaos in the sea has begun to settle, and the war has just ended. The world government needs a peace, no matter how short-lived this peace is. After all, their enemies are not just pirates. The opening of the Golden City and the construction of the neutral zone can also convey some good news to the outside world to a certain extent, which is conducive to the emergence of peace and stability. Naturally, it cannot be underestimated. Arrange the Navy, the bearded man thought for a while and said. Admiralty Marineford. In Marshal Sengoku's office, Sengoku, the naval marshal, was also looking at a piece of information in his hand. Sand Crocodile used some unknown means to really bring Alabasta into the New World. And had a fight with the G-5 Navy. I don't know if this guy will take action against Orgrim, Marshal Warring States murmured. If you take action, it's naturally a good thing. The pirate camp will be in chaos for a while. But if you don't take action, there's no problem. Just let it happen. Thinking of this, the Warring States Marshal put down the documents in his hands, picked up the teacup, and drank. As for the science force, the final difficulty of the war weapon has been overcome, and it's time to call Bartholomew Bear back to continue participating in the plan. While drinking tea, Warring States thought so. Currently, all plans of the Navy are proceeding step by step. The pace of the New World Portal C is becoming more and more stable. Now, the plan for war weapons has also entered the final critical moment. Once this research is successful, it will be quickly mass-produced. When the mass production reaches the standard, it will be able to free up many naval forces in the first half of the Great Route and in the four seas. By then, Navy Headquarters Marineford will be able to move. That's right, at this moment, the Generalissimo Sengoku has begun to consider moving the Navy headquarters to the New World. The Warring States period had done a lot of research and thinking before. It's not like the Navy has never entered the New World before. Before Orgrim went to sea, the Navy still had power and influence in the New World. However, back then, there was Rox who was causing trouble with the Navy. Later, the Rox pirates defeated God's Canyon and disappeared. But Kaido, Charlotte Lingling, Shiji, Whitebeard, John, Wangji, Silver Axe, and other great pirates have not disappeared. I don't know if they are fighting for territory in the New World, or if they are seeking revenge against the Rox pirates. In short, at that time, these forces were dispersed and had a greater impact on the Navy. Then, the Navy's power gradually declined and it withdrew from the New World. Then, it was the time for people like Orgrim to go to sea. The Warring States period previously summarized these experiences and finally came to an uncertain conclusion, that is, the reason why the Navy has been in and out of the New World many times has never been able to fully establish itself. The fundamental reason may be that the Navy headquarters is not established in the New World. Previously, there was no such condition. If the Navy headquarters were placed in the New World, the deterrent effect in other sea areas would be rapidly reduced. Because everyone knows that once the Navy headquarters enters the New World, it will inevitably be involved in a lot of power by the big pirate in the New World. Then wouldn't these miscellaneous fish be happy? Can we cause trouble? Compared with the New World, the area and political significance of the remaining sea areas are larger, so this is the reason why the Navy cannot bring its headquarters into the New World. But once the war weapon plan is formed, the Navy can confidently and boldly enter the New World. The Warring States period was thinking about whether to move the naval headquarters to the New World in one go. Fight those damn bastard pirates until the end. However, this matter cannot be rushed, it needs to be arranged and thought about slowly. After all, this is no small matter. For 800 years, the Admiralty headquarters has been stationed at Marineford and has never wavered. Just as the Warring States Marshal was thinking about these issues, the phone on the table rang. The Warring States Marshal stopped thinking, glanced at the phone bug, and said in surprise, "Wu Laoxing." Not daring to delay anything, the Warring States Marshal quickly picked up the phone bug. "Yes, it's me. Well, recently, the plan has been developing quite smoothly. At present, nothing busy, yes, it has been arranged. We will fill the vacant position of King Shishibukai as soon as possible, but there is currently no suitable candidate. Crocodile's incident has taught us a deep lesson. I think that the strength can be slightly lacking, but it must be reliable. Clear. First we had some normal communication with Wu Laoxing, and then suddenly we heard Marshal Warring States shouting in surprise. Ah! After a short pause, the Warring States Marshal said in confusion. You want me to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden City? Yes, during the Warring States period, the Golden City was a neutral zone, and your status was appropriate, so there was no problem, right? The bald king said on the other side of the phone. Marshal Warring States hesitated for a moment and said, "Yes, I will arrange it." "Ah, very good." The bald king smiled with satisfaction. After hanging up the phone, the Warring States Marshal touched his chin and was thinking in his heart. Golden City, if you go there, you might meet Orgrim. Tisk, I'm going to see some boring people. The Warring States Marshal shook his head and said. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 626. On Avalon's side, Orgrim put away the phone bug. Then he picked up the teacup, took a sip and said, "It seems that Wulaoxing and the others are not going. But from what I hear, it seems that the Navy will be arranged to go. If the Marshal of the Navy, Warring States, goes, wouldn't you go and have a look, Mr. Chui?" Tizalo smiled and asked. Orgrim grinned and said with a smile, "If my good brother Sengoku goes, why should I go and have 2 cups of tea with him? Gee ha 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 ha." "Well, I guess so." Tizalo nodded with a smile. After a slight pause, Tizalo said, "In that case, I will arrange the opening time of the Golden City in a while. After the arrangements are made, I will send invitations to all walks of life. If there is a clear reply from the Navy, I will notify you as soon as possible. Well, if Sengoku doesn't go, at the very least 2 admirals will be present and let me know. If not, there's no need to say hello to me. You can just make the arrangements yourself." Orgrim nodded and said. "Okay, I understand." Tizalo responded with a smile. At this moment, the little secretary Monet walked in from the courtyard with a document in his arms. "Yo, Monet, why are you here?" Orgrim waved to her with a smile. Monet rolled his eyes and said helplessly, "Master Hammer, you should at least support my work. This week, you haven't seen it even once." The documents were all provided by Mr. Beckman. When Monet first came here, he was not very familiar with Orgrim. He was cautious in everything he did and spoke carefully. But now, she is already familiar with Orgrim's style. She knows that this big boss usually has a good personality, can also joke, and is very approachable. Therefore, the fear of Orgrim has long since dissipated. When speaking, he was naturally much more casual. Orgrim didn't care about this at all. Monet was not only a companion, but also a first-class beauty who looked very seductive. Orgrim has always been very tolerant towards beauties. However, he never had any close relationship with Monet. The relationship between the two of them was that of a simple boss and secretary. Listening to Monet's complaint, Orgrim quickly shook his head and said, "I get a headache when I see those documents. Beckman likes to do this, so just let him do it. If there is any big event, or something that I have to make a decision on, let me know again. I'm done. You are so capable, so I should pay more attention to it. It's the end of the year and I will give you a bonus in 2 days." "Bonuses alone are not enough," Monet said with a smile. "What else do you want?" Orgrim said with a smile, not caring about Monet's randomness at all. "How to say, you want to give me some time off, too?" Monet touched his chin and thought for a while. "No problem at all." "Such a small thing," Orgrim said without hesitation. After joking and chatting for a while, Monet continued, "Master Zui, I am here to inform you of today's schedule." "Schedule?" Orgrim was stunned for a moment, and then said, "Do I have any schedule today?" "Yes, according to the time, the Revolutionary Army will arrive in Avalon today. Don't you want to meet them at noon?" Monet also asked with a surprised look on his face. Orgrim. He scratched his head with a slightly embarrassed expression and said, "Is there any? I do not know how. I thought I could eat and wait to die again today. Didn't I give you all the documents last Sunday? There are plans for today above, you signed it," Monet also said speechlessly. As she spoke, she pulled out last week's report from the document book in her arms. Orgrim took it and took a look. Sure enough, it was clearly marked on it. Monet just said, "You're right, there's my signature underneath. Ahem, you know, I have to deal with too many things every day, I forgot about it for a while, but luckily I had you as my secretary to remind me, it's really thanks to you, ha ha, ha 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 ha." Orgrim smiled awkwardly. Robin smiled at the side and complained in a low voice, "Just now I claimed to be eating and waiting to die." Orgrim had sharp ears and heard it immediately. He turned his head and glared at Robin and said, "You don't understand the things about big shots." Ha 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 ha, Teazero, Stella, and Rengar all laughed. After laughing, Orgrim looked at Monet and said, "So, have the Revolutionary Army arrived? Is there any delay or anything? The sea is changeable, although in most cases, things at this level, there will be no delays. But if there is any delay, it is reasonable and not unexpected at all." Hearing this, Monet shook his head and said, "No, according to the news from the port, the Revolutionary Army's ship has arrived at our Avalon this morning. However, so far, they have not come to apply for a meeting. It seems that they are in Avalon. I'm wandering around Walloon Island now. After all, the scheduled meeting time hasn't arrived yet, so I'm just here to remind Mr. Zui of your—" "Yeah?" Orgrim nodded, and then said, "Okay, let's arrange a meeting." "Yes, then I will make arrangements right away," Monet nodded and responded. After saying that, she turned around and prepared to do it. But before she could take a step forward, she heard a sound of talking and laughing coming from outside the door, as well as the sound of footsteps. "Ha ha ha ha, you use water pipes as weapons. What a personality." There was no doubt that the laughter belonged to the little bastard Sphinx. Sure enough, the next second, Sphinx walked in from the door with a water pipe in his hand. There is also a light blue rare pearl inlaid on the head of the water pipe, which is about the size of a fist. When put together, it looks weird. I have no idea what the meaning of this thing is. Robin, as soon as the Sphinx entered the door, she cheered happily when she saw Robin. Then, with a step of her calf, she ran over here and showed off, "Look, the gift I brought you." Robin also looked at the water pipe handed over by Sphinx with a confused look on his face. Although her aesthetics and interests are rather strange, they are not really so strange. "What are you doing?" "This is," Robin asked with some confusion. "This is a rare deep-sea blue water drop, as big as a fist, and worth more than 200 million belly," the Sphinx said, like offering a treasure. "I do recognize the blue water beads. This tube, why is it like this?" Robin asked in surprise. "Well? Do you not like it? I thought you liked this weird style, so you made it." "This pipe has a provenance. It is a weapon of the Revolutionary Army cotters, although it's not very precious. I think it's quite interesting," Sphinx also said with a surprised look. No, Robin doesn't like this kind of weird things very much. Robin's face was filled with black lines. "What misunderstanding do you have about me?" But looking at Sphinx's hesitant expression made Robin feel weak again. After all, this was also a gift given to him by the Sphinx. "Ha ha ha, I see, I like it very much," Robin said with a smile. Sphinx is also easy to coax, and immediately said, "Let me tell you, you will definitely like it. I know you very well, Robin." At the same time, Queen Stussy and others also walked in. Orgrim's eyes lit up and he said, "Hey, we have a rare visitor today, Boss Tiger, haven't seen you for many years." Monet also smiled when he saw this and said, "It seems you don't need me to arrange it. Mr. Chui, long time no see, you are still so chic, Tiger also said with a smile. Queen Stacy also smiled and said, at this time I was walking around the free trade zone and happened to meet Mr. Tiger and the others. I heard Mr. Tiger said that you have made an appointment, so I will make my own decision and send him first. I brought it in, is it okay? Gee ha 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 ha, what does this have to do with anything? I was planning to ask Monet to arrange a meeting. This would save trouble, Orgrim laughed. The maids who were on call in the courtyard quickly prepared all the tables and chairs and placed them on the lawn. Orgrim had no intention of entering the house, and just planned to chat with the Revolutionary Army people here. Anyway, it's just an ordinary meeting, so there shouldn't be any big problems. If something really happened, it would definitely not be these few people who came from the Revolutionary Army. Durag would have to come and talk to Orgrim in person. Sit, sit, sit. Orgrim did not stand up, he was still sitting there, waving his hands very casually and saying his boss attitude, but no one felt any discomfort. I even feel that Orgrim's smiling attitude is already very flattering. It seems that what Mr. Tiger said before is true. He has some friendship with the King of the Night. After Sabo sat down, he whispered to Kral next to him. Kral glared at Sab and said, Mr. Tiger doesn't talk big. Monet, the little secretary, is also very discerning. After Tiger and others sat down, she quickly took the teapot from the maid's hand, poured tea for everyone one by one, and then stood quietly in the Austrian room. Behind Grimm, he held a sketch pen and a document in his hand, as if he wanted to record the content of the conversation so that Orgrim could not remember it later and could give an answer when asked. It's been so many years since I last saw you. What do you mean, have you joined the Revolutionary Army? Orgrim took a sip of tea and casually chatted with Tiger about the past. Tiger also took a sip of tea, shook his head with a smile and said, No, although I have received a lot of care from the Revolutionary Army, I did not officially join Revolutionary Army, but a close partner. I heard that you are still doing great things. Occasionally, slave liberation movements are published in the newspapers, Orgrim smiled. Although Tiger didn't say anything clearly. But Orgrim knew that Tiger should have joined the Revolutionary Army long ago, but he has never officially joined. I'm afraid it's also because of myself. In the early years, Tiger had a lot of contact with him. He should understand that his attitude and feelings towards the Revolutionary Army were not very good. And I have some kindness towards Tiger, plus the relationship between Fishman Island and Avalon. This should be Tiger's concern. Although he didn't say anything explicitly, Orgrim did recognize this display of great kindness. Tiger is a reliable guy. Mr. Dalag knows that I still have some relationship with Mr. Chui, so this time, he asked me to help him bring the juniors of the Revolutionary Army to pay a visit to Mr. Chui, Tiger said with a smile. Well, easy to say, Orgrim nodded, and then looked around at the two figures sitting next to Tiger. One was a beautiful girl who looked elegant. Orgrim knew that this was the figure whom Tiger saved from Mary Joa. One of the people who came out was Kral. The other one was more familiar. Sabo, Chief of Staff of the future Revolutionary Army. He is also a big shot. But at this time, both of them still looked immature. Orgrim's gaze, although there was no pressure on it, just looked at him. But Sabo and Kral both felt a huge pressure. It seemed as if he was being targeted by a tiger. The strongest in the world, Mr. Durag should be very powerful, but he can't be like him. Just a look in his eyes can make me so uneasy and anxious, Sabo sighed in his heart. Fortunately, Orgrim didn't really want to bully the small, or do anything immodest. He just took a look at it, he said with a smile. The Revolutionary Army also has successors. It's really a good seedling, that guy Durag found a treasure. As soon as he smiled, the pressure on Sabo and Kral disappeared. It was as if the pressure that had just occurred was all an illusion. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 627. After chatting for a while, Orgrim knew that Sabo's fate had hardly changed. That's normal. After all, it's a rural place in the East China Sea. I didn't do anything earth-shattering in the East China Sea. It didn't have any impact, so it wasn't unexpected. The Revolutionary Army has developed well in the past 2 years. Your business in the dark world is also doing well and you have made a lot of money. Orgrim said with a smile. Sabo also smiled, and then said, this is also thanks to your care, Lord of the Night. Who doesn't know that if you want to make money in the dark world, you have to get your nod, only then. Gee ha 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 ha, this is an exaggeration. Although our Warhammer pirates have been involved in the dark world a lot, there are no restrictions on the business there. Everyone can do it according to their abilities. Orgrim laughed. Sabo did have some ideas in his mind. There is no doubt that Orgrim is paying attention to the Revolutionary Army, otherwise he would not know what the Revolutionary Army is doing in the dark world. The words may seem like nothing, but they carry deep meaning. Invisible shackles have been hung on the Revolutionary Army. However, the Revolutionary Army has no way to resist anything. Sabo's words just now also meant to show goodwill, telling Orgrim, their Revolutionary Army, will make money in the dark world within the rules of the Warhammer pirates. However, Orgrim obviously had no intention of accepting the words. He pushed back and forth, pretending that he didn't understand anything, saying that everyone should rely on his or her abilities. This time, Durag asked you to come to see me. What did you want to say? Orgrim took a sip of tea and asked in a very casual tone. Sabo smiled again and said, Mr. Durag knows that with our status, we are not qualified to talk to you, the King of the Night, so he didn't tell us anything. He just wanted to take advantage of Mr. Tiger's favor and let us juniors come and visit you. It has to be said that although Sabo has lost his memory, he still has the aristocratic temperament he was cultivated from childhood. He speaks and acts very appropriately. Even though Orgrim is not very fond of the Revolutionary Army, after this conversation, I also have a good impression of Sabo. He is sensible, good at talking, and makes people comfortable. After a slight pause, Sabo added, by the way, I want to ask us to pass on a message, saying that if you have time, Lord of the Night, Mr. Dalag wants to meet with you to talk about the future. Perhaps our Revolutionary Army can have deeper cooperation with you. Krall followed up and said, yes, Lord Orgrim, after all, the future should be an era of competition between you and the Navy. Our Revolutionary Army can also be regarded as the enemy of the Navy. There are many. But before Krall could finish her words, Sabo quickly stopped her words and said with some embarrassment, I'm sorry, my companion. Gee ha 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 ha, don't worry, I'm not so insensitive, this is not a formal occasion, you all call yourself juniors, what else can I argue with you? Speak freely, don't worry, Orgrim laughed. Krall was not a fool, and he realized something at this time. Orgrim's talkative and approachable demeanor just now made her feel a little relaxed without even realizing it. He actually used a preaching method to give Orgrim his opinions. This kind of thing may not be inappropriate for Mr. Durag, but how can you have such qualifications? Fortunately, it seems that the big boss Orgrim doesn't care. Thank you for your tolerance, Sob said softly again. It's nothing, but the little girl is right. We still have a common enemy now, Orgrim smiled and said. After a short pause, he looked at Tetsalo and said, Tetsalo, please make arrangements. When the Golden City opens, remember to invite Mr. Dalag to watch the ceremony. If I'm here, I'll come. By the way, you can talk to him. If I don't go, I will invite Mr. Durag to Avalon after the ceremony. Yes, Mr. Hammer Tzalo nodded quickly in response. Orgrim's words were quite polite. However, he did feel a bit arrogant. If you invite Durag to watch the ceremony, you may not be there? This seems like, doesn't it seem very respectful? However, Neither Sabo nor Kral dared to show any expression of dissatisfaction and responded one after another. These things, they are just tools to convey messages. Convey Orgrim's meaning, just give it to Mr. Dalag. As for whether Mr. Dalag will go to the Golden City, that depends on what Mr. Dalag thinks. After talking and laughing again, a figure walked in outside the courtyard again. This figure was a little surprised when he saw so many people in the yard, and he hesitated in his movements, not knowing whether he should come in or not. Robin was the first to notice this figure, and stood up happily and said, "Mom, you are back. How is the library?" Yes, the figure who came in was none other than Nicole Albia. Hearing Robin's voice, Albia had no choice but to retreat. She could only walk in, greeted everyone with a smile, and said, "Avalon's great library is truly well deserved. It makes me great eye-opening." After a short pause, Albia said, "I looked at the time, and it seemed that it was almost lunch time, so I came back, but it seems like it's not the right time. Do you need me to avoid it?" After hearing this, Orgrim waved his hand and said, "It's nothing. We don't have anything to talk about here that you should avoid. Is it almost time for dinner? Let's eat together, Stussy." "Here I am." Queen Stussy responded with a smile. "Instruct the cook to add some more dishes, and everyone can eat together at noon," Orgrim said. "Okay." Stussy nodded and responded, then stood up and prepared to make arrangements. Hancock also stood up and prepared to assist the queen. Then Oriasai said with some hesitation, "In addition, I am preparing, left." As soon as she finished speaking, Robin's expression became surprised, and then became a little complicated. Albia, who seemed to be ashamed, said quickly, "But Mom will definitely visit you often, Robin." Orgrim also smiled and said, "Although I can't help you with anything, you are welcome to come to Avalon at any time." "Thanks," Orgrim. Albia nodded and said, "Mom, where are you going?" After all, Robin did not stop anything and asked. Albia did not hesitate and said directly, "Just now, Crocodile contacted me. He has entered the new world. If nothing else happens, I'll return to Alabasta." With his eyes a little wandering, Albia said softly, "Alabasta is the oldest country of mankind. It contains the knowledge I yearn for. At the same time, Crocodile, he might be willing to help me get revenge. Crocodile is cunning and cunning. Mom, if you encounter any danger, you must inform me," Robin warned. "Well, I get it," Albia said with a smile on her lips. After a slight pause, Albia said to Orgrim again, "Is the Golden City going to open?" Orgrim was not surprised that Orbia would know about this matter. After all, although there should be no conclusion from the outside world, there are many eyes staring at the Golden City. When Tezzero came, he had already said that the city has been built. This kind of thing cannot be hidden, so many people should predict that the Golden City is likely to open in the near future. Otherwise, if it is built but not opened, what will be done? A waste of resources? Well, that's about it. What's wrong? Orgrim asked. Crocodile also guessed this and said that it would not be appropriate to come directly to Avalon to visit you. He would go to the Golden City. If you will show up in the Golden City, he will meet you there. If you don't go, he will set off from there by boat to Avalon. This will appear more sincere and make both parties feel more at ease, Albia said. Orgrim nodded amusedly. Indeed, it is certainly impossible for Crocodile to drive his Alabasta to Avalon. There is no way Orgrim would allow Alabasta, carrying an ancient weapon like Pluto, to enter the Sea of Eternal Night and enter his territory. Otherwise, if Crocodile goes crazy, just mess around. Even if Orgrim can kill him, he will still suffer undue losses. So if Crocodile comes, he must come by boat. I don't know if he has any deep meaning in doing this. But if you really follow his gloomy thinking, his behavior this time can be regarded as insurance for himself. he didn't know what Orgrim's views and attitude were towards him. Coming to Avalon alone to visit Orgrim sounds a bit dangerous, okay. If Orgrim had any thoughts about him, Crocodile would probably have a hard time leaving Avalon alive with so many masters. But if you go to Golden City first, it will be slightly different. When the Golden City opens, it doesn't matter whether top bosses like Orgrim will arrive. But there is no doubt that a lot of other big names in the industry will come. When the time comes, Crocodile shows his goodwill to Orgrim and the Warhammer pirates in front of everyone. After all, as soon as he came to the New World, he went directly to the Golden City to congratulate the Warhammer pirates on their business opening. Isn't this sincere enough? By then, it will be much safer for him to come to Avalon. As long as Orgrim still has a little bit of shame, he probably won't attack him for no reason. Otherwise, the people on the sea saw that Crocodile came to the Golden City to congratulate him so sincerely, and then went to Avalon to visit you, Orgrim, alone. No matter how you look at it, your posture is too low, right? In the end, you Orgrim still killed people. After this, who would dare to go to Avalon to visit you casually? That guy is really, I am not a devil, do you need to be so guarded against me? Didn't I make my words very clear before? As long as he doesn't mess with me, I have no interest in him. Orgrim smiled and shook his head. Albia said softly, weak people, no matter how cautious they are when facing the strong, can't be too much, right? Gee ha 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 ha, are you saying that Crokel is weak? Orgrim laughed. At least, looking at it now, in front of you, he is, Albia said without hesitation. These conversations between Orgrim and Orbia did not avoid the rest of the people present. There is no need to hide anything. After all, Orgrim had no intention of hiding Crocodile from the beginning. Sabo listened to these conversations and seemed to grasp some of the key points. He was a little surprised. He originally thought that Crocodile might have a conflict with the Warhammer pirates after entering the New World. Now it seems that Crocodile has realized the gap between the two sides and took the initiative to submit, or rather, at this stage, I choose to be patient. It seems that he still underestimated the influence and deterrence of Orgrim, the world's strongest pirate, on the pirate camp. Even the silver medalists sand Crocodile, who has the highest reputation for reaching the top of the Yonko. Even when Orgrim didn't make any substantive actions, he was bowed down by this invisible pressure. The pirates in the New World can only have one will, and that is Khazgarot Orgrim. Sabo believes that no matter whether there will be changes in the future, at least for now, no one can stop Orgrim's will in the New World. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 628. Tetsalo quickly made arrangements for the opening of Golden City. News about the opening of the world's largest entertainment city swept the entire world in an instant. As he promised before, Morgans gave Golden City great recommendation and publicity. The newspapers were overwhelmingly covering it, as if it was free of charge. The whole world's attention seems to have been attracted by the Golden City project. Logically speaking, a mere entertainment city, even if it is claimed to be the best in the world, should not be able to attract such attention. However, Golden City is not just an entertainment city. It is also the only officially recognized neutral zone in the world, and is a mobile neutral zone. According to the cooperation agreement between the world government and the Golden City, wherever the Golden City passes, within a radius of 200 nautical miles, everything is a neutral zone. Be it the Navy or CP agencies, in short, all agencies affiliated with the world government must abide by this rule. In the Golden City, even if Whitebeard was seriously injured, he was in a state that a Navy deckwasher could catch. The Navy can't take action either. Even if the leader of the Revolutionary Army, Chief Durag, is on the verge of dying in the Golden City, the people from the CP agency have no right to arrest Durag here. Just so arrogant. Theoretically speaking, it seems that the world government agreement alone cannot form a true neutral zone. After all, there are still a lot of people in the world government who don't care about you. The world government also advocates not to rob or be a pirate. From a macro perspective, isn't this era still the era of great pirates? However, the Golden City is not just a project invested by the world government. The world's strongest pirate group and the world's strongest man have arrived on the other side. Standing at the end of their power, Khazgarot Orgrim and the Warhammer Pirates are another big owner of the Golden City project. This is the fundamental reason that ensures that Golden City can truly become a neutral zone. Everyone on the sea knows that if the world government can still barely represent light and order, then the Warhammer Pirates and Orgrim definitely represent darkness and chaos. This neutral zone is built and recognized by darkness and light, order and chaos. There is probably no one in this world who can live happily on the sea after offending the world government and Orgrim. This is a powerful guarantee to ensure that the Golden City remains neutral. Maybe there will still be stupid young people in the sea, desperate lunatics causing trouble in the Golden City. However, at present, none of the big guys in various industries dare to have such an idea. Before Tetsalo announced the official opening date of Golden City, he first communicated with the big guys in various industries. Many invitations were delivered with great sincerity. Therefore, soon, news spread that many big names were going to participate in the opening ceremony of Golden City. The biggest news among them. It is Admiral Sengoku who will personally attend the opening ceremony of Golden City. At first, when the news spread to the sea, everyone thought that the news of the world was making fake news again. How could Admiral Warring States attend the opening ceremony of the Golden City? If he can suppress the Navy's restless heart of justice and require the Navy to abide by the Golden City's neutrality treaty, it's already pretty good, right? And congratulations on the opening of Golden City. The result was a slap in the face very quickly. The news of the world used the actual situation to prove that their newspaper never publishes fake news. Marine Headquarters Marineford directly responded to the doubts on the sea. The Navy admitted that Marshal Warring States will go to participate in the opening ceremony of Golden City. The sea was in an uproar. In this era where the Navy and pirates are about to compete fiercely, it is of great significance for Sengoku, the naval marshal, to attend the opening ceremony of the Golden City. It seems that peace is coming. Struggle may still be the main theme, and peace may not last long. But there is no doubt that the era of peace will come briefly. As for how long this time can last, it depends on the minds of the big guys. The spread of such good news has even brought a certain degree of prosperity to the entire world's business system. After all, business and investment all depend on the market and confidence. Now, peace will come, of course the market is confident, and it will naturally allow more people to invest. Previously, the haze caused by the battle for kingship in the New World began to quickly dissipate over the world. Soon, after Admiral Sengoku officially confirmed that he would attend the opening ceremony of Golden City on time, Tetsuro announced that the captain of the Warhammer Pirates, the world's strongest man, the king of the night, Khazgarot Orgrim, will also arrive in the Golden City in person to participate in this event. All of a sudden, representatives of the two camps will all gather in the Golden City. This makes the opening ceremony of Golden City have a strong symbolic significance. People from all walks of life, with or without invitation letters, all plan to go to Golden City to have a look. Anyone with an invitation letter is naturally superior to others and can be called a distinguished guest. If not, then just think of it as going to Golden City to be a customer. Anyway, when Golden City opens, it is impossible that there will be no customers to support it. Just take a look, even if you can make friends with some big boss, it will be a huge profit. Bihai Ogalan Town. This is the hometown of Orgrim, Beckman, and Neiman. But it really didn't leave a good impression on the three brothers and sisters. Therefore, the three of them never said that they wanted to go back to Ogalan after they reunited. But at this time, At the port of the small town of Ogolan, Andrest was holding a toothpick in his mouth, sitting cross-legged on a cargo container in a very casual manner, wearing a white mink velvet cloak and a demon sword. Zindu, placed horizontally on the legs. He was holding a newspaper in his hand, and what was published in the newspaper was the news about the Golden City. Andrest was reading the newspaper. Not far away from him, several young men from the Warhammer pirates were dragging a corpse and throwing it into the sea. There were traces of the battle everywhere on the port. It was obvious that a conflict that could not be called too fierce had just occurred here. It felt like a pirate ship moored in the port with a fancy pirate flag was emptied out by the Warhammer pirates. Then a young man poured some whale oil on the boat and burned the boat clean. "Your Highness," a strong pirate man walked up to Andrest and called softly. Without raising his head, Andrest bit his toothpick and stared at the newspaper and asked, "Have you found it?" "No, I'm sorry, the unknown devil fruit we are looking for is not on board," the strong pirate man quickly replied. "Yeah," Andrest responded very casually. He came to the town of Ogolan not to visit his father's hometown. In fact, he had never heard his father mention it. Every time he mentioned it in bragging, doesn't seem to have a good impression of this place. In Andrest's view, the hometown of their Kashgrove family is already Avalon in the Sea of Eternal Night. This Ogolan town is nothing more than it's just an embellishment. The reason why he came here was just a coincidence. Aunt Neiman arranged a trial for him. And it just so happened that the rumored pirate ship carrying very powerful devil fruit happened to arrive in Ogolan. Small town. So Andrest came. Then he destroyed the miscellaneous fish pirate group. But it seems that there is no devil fruit. Andrest is not disappointed, it's just a devil fruit. It won't make him feel disappointed. But Your Highness, according to the answers of these miscellaneous fish pirates, they did get a devil fruit before, the strong pirate man said again. Andrest then raised his head, glanced at the strong pirate man, and then said, "Bring him here, I'll ask." "Yes," the strong pirate man responded. After a while, he returned to Andrest with a pirate as skinny as a chicken in one hand. As soon as the weak pirate was released, he started to sneeze. Said with tears, "Don't kill me, please, sir." Andrest grinned with an evil smile, spat the toothpick on the ground, and asked, "Answer my question, where did the devil fruit in your hands go?" "Leave, lost," the weakling pirate said with some fear. Lost? Andrest was a little surprised. He thought that the devil fruit was sold by pirates like them, or eaten by someone. Unexpectedly, it was lost? Can the devil fruit be lost? Really lost it? When I came back to my senses, I found that the devil fruit in the box was gone, the weakling pirate said quickly. Where was it lost? Andrest asked again. No. Not sure, the weakling pirate said hesitantly. But soon, after he saw the cold light in Andrest's eyes, he quickly said, "But it should be in Provence." Don't look at Andrest acting like a good boy in front of Orgrim and others. Don't forget, Andrest grew up in Avalon, and the people he came into contact with the most were pirates. How could he be a good baby? He is the son of an evil pirate and will inevitably follow the path of a pirate. Provence? Wasn't that country already destroyed long ago? Andrest frowned and said. He had heard of this matter. And his father was also one of the masterminds behind the scenes. After Freefans fell, he took Freefan's flesh and blood, divided it up completely. Yes, Freefans was destroyed due to platinum lead disease, but, the weakling pirate quickly explained. After a long time, Andrest finally understood what was going on. Freefans is indeed cold. Under normal circumstances, if a country is destroyed, its territory will definitely be occupied by surrounding countries. But Freefans is different. In the beginning, the reason why the 3 surrounding countries destroyed Freefans was because they were afraid of the spread of the disease. I am even more afraid of platinum lead disease. Under such circumstances, after destroying free fans, how could they possibly occupy free fans? Even if the aristocracy knows some of the truth, public opinion still occupies a large proportion, and opposition is deep. Therefore, over the years, free fans has been abandoned there, with no country occupying it. Soon, it became a lawless zone. Chaos began to breed, and free fans became another evil place in the North Sea. Most people don't dare to step here. But those outlaws, wanted criminals, people who can't survive in normal places don't care about this. Perhaps he would contract the terrible platinum lead disease in Provence and be killed. But if they don't come, they will probably die immediately. As time passed, the darkness and chaos within free fans gradually grew stronger. Nowadays, there are many evil parties gathered in that destroyed country. More importantly, free fans still has profit resources. When the villains gathered there, they quickly began to inherit Fravance's job and continued to secretly mine platinum and lead. The price of platinum and lead was raised to an inflated level by Doflamingo, Orgrim, and the world government. I don't know how much benefit I have gained. Then the price collapsed and platinum lead became worthless. But that's how capital works. Nowadays, the situation is different again. The platinum and lead stored in the hands of countless people are slowly being digested by the world. When the goods no longer exceed the standard, the price of platinum and lead will naturally pick up again. And gradually moves higher. But under normal circumstances, platinum and lead are considered extinct. After all, free fans has been destroyed, and no one dares to mine platinum and lead anymore. But nowadays, the villains of free fans don't care about this. As long as they can make money, they will do anything. Mining platinum and lead is also a small problem. In this way, the evil mining that once destroyed a country and brought hell and blood was resurrected. Free fans has become a dark lair in the North Sea where no light can be seen. The weakling pirates had gone there before and purchased some platinum lead, preparing to sell it to other places to make profits. And the devil fruit was lost there. Interesting, ha 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 ha, Provence turned out to be like this, I'm really surprised, and Drest laughed. He seemed to have felt some of the charm of the sea now. Adventure may lie in discovering the unknown and understanding the unknown, Bar. This is really interesting. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 629. Although the Golden City is not as low-key and luxurious as the Warhammer Pirates station in Avalon. In terms of style, there is no sass in Avalon. But I have to say that considering the layout of the entertainment city, this is definitely a quite luxurious place. Navy Marshal Sengoku is coming. Then Orgrim must give him some face during the Warring States period. Naturally, I also want to participate in this event. He is different from Warring States. If he wants to come, he will naturally come in advance. After all, he is the big boss of Golden City. At this time, Orgrim had arrived at the Golden City. Nowadays, this place has not opened yet and can barely be called a ghost town. The reason why I say reluctantly is because there are still a lot of people working here. Even Avalon's newly formed 6th Legion has settled here. And after that, Avalon's 6 legions will take turns to perform garrison tasks in the Golden City in batches. At the same time, Rengar also entered here with a large number of black-robed pickets. But tens of thousands of people stationed there are still only a small number to this huge Golden City. Judging from the scale of construction, the entire Golden City, operating at full efficiency at its peak, can accommodate 6 million people. This is already better than many countries. In other words, the Warhammer Pirates and the world government have invested in building a new country. This is the exclusive building of the Warhammer Pirates in the Golden City. It is specially provided for the use of the Warhammer pirates and our allies of the Warhammer pirates. The total height of the building is 338 meters, which is also the tallest building in the entire Golden City. There are only 50 floors in total, and the space between each floor is nearly 7 meters high. Even with your height, Lord Orgrim, you will not feel any oppression at all in the building. A beautiful girl with long burgundy hair stood next to Orgrim and introduced the building in front of Orgrim. Orgrim recognized this girl as the one who ate the luck fruit. Bakara, who has a superhuman devil fruit. Teezero's right-hand man. However, Orgrim had never met Bakara before. He only knew that there was such a person. For some reason, Orgrim always felt that there was something wrong with the way Bakara looked at him. That feeling of adoration and stars in your eyes? I, Orgrim, am indeed very charming. Wherever I go, I am admired by beauties. The color of the entire Golden City is naturally golden. Even most of them are built using Sirius gold. It is an extension of Tetsalo's ability, allowing him to fully control the Golden City. Even if gold cannot support some structures and other building materials are used, they must be gilded with gold powder. So from the outside, the entire Golden City is golden. Only this building is dark in color. The building body is black. This building, called Black Pearl, 7 meters, is indeed very high. Orgrim smiled and said. Of course, there are many guys over 7 meters tall in the sea, but what does this have to do with Orgrim? There are also giants in the sea, and the Warhammer pirates built their own building. It's impossible to build them all on the scale of the giants, right? Not to mention there are monsters like San Juan Wolf that have grown up on hormones. The 7-meter spacing between layers is already very sincere and can satisfy the needs of the vast majority of people in the world. Even he, Orgrim, will not feel depressed. Yes, Lord Orgrim, please come with me. We have reserved your room. It is on the top of the 50th floor, overlooking the entire Golden City, Bakara said with a smile. The black tone outside this building is in great contrast with the Golden City. But entering the building, this contrast still exists. Orgrim landed in the Golden City this morning. It can be regarded as wandering around the Golden City. Although it is impossible to wander around the entire Golden City in this short time. But I am familiar with the style of the Golden City. It is an explosive luxury. A place where you can go to the Golden City is absolutely no brass is used, and gems as big as a fist can be used, definitely not as big as a fingernail. But this building is different. On the contrary, it looks a bit like the palace of the Avalon Warhammer pirates. The materials used here are more sophisticated. And very low-key, full of luxury. However, Orgrim was not surprised. Soon, a group of people walked to the elevator. This was an exclusive elevator, and there were strong security guards standing on both sides of the elevator. Personnel. It can be seen that they have an aura of retreating from the battlefield. They are serious elite forces. The elevator space is very large, and Orgrim and his party can all go in, and it does not seem crowded. Huh? There is only one floor button here, Sphinx said a little strangely. Bakara quickly explained, Lord Sphinx, the elevator here is specially built and only leads to the 50th floor. The elevator goes directly to the home. The entire 50th floor belongs to Lord Orgrim. Enjoy. As he said this, Bakara pressed the floor button. There is no 50 number marked on the button like that of ordinary elevators. It's just a simple Warhammer Pirates logo. After hearing this, the Sphinx said with some envy, that's great, Mr. Hammer. I also want a place like this as my exclusive place. Gee ha 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 ha, Orgrim laughed and rubbed the Sphinx's head and said, if you like it, I'll give it to you. Really? Asked the Sphinx in surprise. Certainly. Orgrim responded with a smile, then turned to Bakara and said, from now on, this place will be exclusive to our Lord Sphinx, okay. Of course, Your will is above all else, Bakara said without hesitation. Hum, then I have to come here to stay often in the future, otherwise wouldn't it be a waste, the Sphinx said a little bit. Queen Stussy and others couldn't help laughing when they looked at this little guy's I am the best in the world look. For Orgrim, he casually put this floor the act of giving it to the Sphinx. No one thought there was anything wrong with him. He was rich and arrogant. What's more, we are all a family. It is impossible for one person to live in such a big place. To whom is it not the same? The elevator made a clear beep, and then stopped steadily. Even if it was carrying a group of people, it did not tremble at all. Then, the elevator door opened, and sure enough, as Baccarat introduced like that, the elevator enters the house directly. The first thing you see is a screen, which slightly blocks the entrance of the elevator. After bypassing the screen, the entire 50 floors are within sight. They have been decorated and are in line with Orgrim's style. Taste. The transparent one-way floor-to-ceiling windows allow people to see the island under their feet at a glance. Sure enough, the entire Golden City is overlooked. The Sphinx and others directly spread around the room to admire it. Austria Grimm also walked to the window, but before he could appreciate the beautiful scenery, the phone rang. Then, Monet, who was following Orgrim, quickly took out the beeping phone from his handbag. The barking phone bug answered it. Brother, how is the Golden City? Neiman's voice came from the phone bug. Orgrim smiled and said without looking back, it's very good. It's beyond my expectation. How do you think, want to come and take a look? I'm in Bihai. I'm afraid I won't have time to rush back. I'm not in a hurry anyway, so forget it. I'll talk to you next time. Dover has already set off, Neiman said with a smile. Gee ha, yes, it's not a big deal, just go about your business first, Orgrim laughed. If the naval marshal of warring states had not come, Orgrim would not have come to the Golden City. Perhaps, this is a big event for the entire world. But for Orgrim, for such a top boss, it's nothing more than the opening of his new business. It's no big deal. Everything that should be arranged has already been arranged, right? After a few more casual conversations, Orgrim then he asked, where's André? How about it? Is he in Bihai? Well, I haven't paid much attention to him these days, but I heard that he went to Free Fans, Neiman said. Although André was given to Neiman to take care of, Orgrim did not really think that Neiman had to take care of André 24 hours a day. What's the point? It just needs that André can be protected by NI men within a certain range. What happened? If someone really wanted to use this to target him, Orgrim, it would be enough if Neiman could arrive as soon as possible and solve the problem. For the rest, just let André do whatever he wants. For Vans, Orgrim murmured in surprise. He had somewhat heard about what was going on there. However, Orgrim didn't care much about this. He smiled and said, okay, you just need to be more careful. Of course, André is my junior. Neiman said happily. At the same time, in the sea area not too far from the Golden City, a pirate ship flying the flag of the Warhammer Pirates was also heading towards the Golden City. On the deck, a boy with a bohemian style said very unhappily, is that enough? It's been half a year. According to the agreement, I've been washing dishes for half a year. It's time to let me go, right? Why are you holding on to me? You really got the advantage and behaved well. If you want to be a pirate, don't you have to enter a new world in the end? Now, we directly enter the new world with you, isn't that good? A beautiful girl also stood on the deck and asked. These two people are Ace and Nami. And this ship is Aaron's ship. They have entered the new world, and immediately, heading towards the Golden City. Aaron is taking Nami to report to Master Zui. Of course it's not good, Ace said without hesitation. Before Nami could speak, Ace continued. I went to sea to be a pirate, to find freedom and to find the answer in my heart. The result was good. I washed my hands in your Cocoa West village. Not to mention half a year's work, but also directly brought to a new world. The journey and adventure on the road were completely unenjoyable. Not to mention my freedom was restricted. How can I find the answer in my heart during this kind of process? What do you want? Nami asked unhappily. Golden City, this is the last time for Golden City. After watching Golden City, I want to leave, Ace said without hesitation. At this moment, Aaron walked out of the cabin with a smile and said, Kid, aren't you ready to join our Warhammer pirates? Ace's expression hesitated for a moment. The Warhammer pirates are the most powerful pirate group today. It is impossible to say that Ace is not moved. But after hesitating for a moment, Ace immediately said no, with my strength, joining you is nothing more than being a minion. I am preparing to go to sea on my own, and I am determined to challenge Hosgaro's Orgrim. I will join him now. How can this be done? Just you? Are you worthy enough to challenge Orgrim? Nami mocked mercilessly. Hello, Ace complained dissatisfiedly, and then said being a man without dreams is no different from a salted fish. I didn't say that I would challenge him now. When I go through my own adventure on the sea, I will definitely become stronger. One day, I will have this qualification. Too lazy to tell you, Nami muttered, then ran to the railing of the deck, looked at the golden city that seemed to have appeared on the sea level, and said with some emotion, you Warhammer pirates are so rich. Ha 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 ha, in terms of wealth, our Warhammer pirates have always been able to do it. Aaron laughed. Great, it's just such a wealthy pirate group that meets my ideals, Nami said happily. We are about to reach the Golden City and meet Orgrim. We haven't seen him for so many years. Has he changed? Does he still recognize me? A sledgehammer breaks into pirates. Author, Zippo. Chapter 630. Sitting on the sofa, Orgrim drank tea and listened to Monet's report. According to Mr. Tetsalo's report, everything has been arranged and the Golden City will be opened smoothly. Admiral Sengoku and others will also arrive in 2 days. Monet looked at the notebook in his hand and said softly. Orgrim responded casually. After thinking for a while, he said to Monet, phone bug, help me call Whitebeard. There was a hint of surprise in Monet's eyes, but he didn't ask anything and quickly dialed the bug signal. After a while, they picked up over there. Cool la 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 la, Orgrim, you bastard would call me bug, it's really strange, Newgate's bold voice came from the phone bug. Orgrim put down the teacup in his hand and said with a smile, hey, old guy, are you so disrespectful? The invitation has been sent to your ship, and you reject me. Golden City? Asked Newgate. Of course, what else could it be? Orgrim said with a smile. Cool la 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 la, that's such a pity, I can't go. Newgate laughed again. Such a small belly chicken intestine? Didn't I just beat you once? It's not like I've never lost to you before, right? Do you think I am generous? Orgrim complained. You can't blame me for this. After all, I have guests here that I haven't seen for a long time. I have to entertain them well, Newgate said with a smile. Long time no see guest? Is it more important than me? Orgrim asked with a raised brow. The guest that Newgate values so much. Could this guy have something dirty with the Navy? It shouldn't be, with his arrogance. Before Orgrim could figure this out, Newgate said, then you have to tell him in person to see who of the two of you is more important. I don't believe there is anyone better than me in this world, Orgrim said with a serious tone. Shiki, he said he wanted to ask me out for a drink. Newgate directly interrupted Orgrim. Orgrim's face twitched slightly and said directly, I'm sorry to bother you, take my leave. Cool la 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 la. Newgate heard Orgrim's frustrated response and laughed heartily. That golden city of yours is not a place that a poor pirate like me can afford to go to. I won't go there this time. But don't worry, that neutral zone of Lashiza is for your sake. Our white-beard pirates will respect it, Newgate said with a smile. I don't know if it was an illusion. Orgrim always felt that Newgate let himself go a little bit after losing to him. In other words, the pressure of being the strongest, no more? When you say it, it seems to be more voluptuous, as if your mentality is a little younger. There is no such me only look as in the previous exchanges. Just do less charity, Orgrim complained. Although Newgate didn't plan to come, the intention has already arrived. The reason why Orgrim called this phone bug was to get Newgate's attitude. The Whitebeard pirates, although he lost to the Warhammer pirates. But in terms of influence, they are still first-rate, second only to the Warhammer pirates in the New World. If this guy Newgate insists on causing trouble to the Golden City, it was a bit troublesome. But before contacting him, Orgrim felt that Newgate would not do this. But he still had to ask and give Newgate some face. Now, with this attitude, he has got. Pirates just have to do what they want to do, whether it's good or bad. This is freedom, Newgate said with a smile. Yes, no matter whether you do good things or bad things, just do whatever you want. This is freedom and a pirate. He did not continue to chat with Newgate. As a man who respects his elders and loves as a young pirate, after Orgrim knew that Boss Shiji was going to drink with Newgate, it was naturally impossible for him to force Newgate to participate in the opening of the Golden City. After hanging up the phone, Orgrim shook his head in amusement and said, I always feel like Newgate is ready to retire. Isn't this a good thing for our Warhammer pirates? Monet asked a little strangely. Good or bad, how can it be so simple? The Whitebeard pirates, but what about the first wave of force that I plan to use against the Navy? How could you ask this old guy to retreat so easily? Orgrim waved his hand and said. Mr. Hammer, are you going to target the Whitebeard pirates? Monet asked in surprise. She thought that the grudges between the Warhammer pirates and the Whitebeard pirates had ended in the last war. She didn't watch the conversation between Hammer and Newgate just now. Doesn't it smell like gunpowder? It's not about whether it's targeted or not. There are problems within the Whitebeard pirates, but they haven't become apparent yet. I'll just go with the flow, Orgrim smiled and said. Monet was half understanding, but Orgrim had no intention of continuing. After looking around, he found that Sphinx, the little lowly who had just clamored to transform this place into an arsenal, was gone. Already? What about the Sphinx? Orgrim asked. Monet said softly just now, Sphinx answered a phone call, and then left excitedly, saying she was going to pick up her little brother or something. Little brother, Orgrim was stunned for a moment, but soon, he didn't think much about it. Sphinx is the eldest sister of the Avalon gang. Who knows how many younger brothers she has? In her mouth, G-5 Fujitora from the Navy smiled, he was also her younger brother. In the golden port of the Golden City, Tizalo was walking with Rengar. Although the entire Golden City is large, there is actually only one port arranged for entry and exit. However, the port level is very high, so there is no need to worry about the pressure of the ship flow. In short, this is the top priority for safety. I leave it to you, brother Rengar, Tizalo said with a smile. Rengar nodded and said, don't worry, no matter what happens here, it can't be more chaotic than Avalon back then, right? Just when the two of them were saying this, Sphinx, the grumpy lowly, ran all the way and rushed into the port. Tetsalo looked back and quickly said, hello Sphinx, why are you here? Didn't you go to rest with Mr. Zui? Rengar said with a smile, you are still so restless. Boat. See the boat? The Sphinx asked. Boat? Are there boats everywhere? Tizalo was a little surprised. He didn't know what the Sphinx was talking about. The ship of our Warhammer pirates, the Sphinx shouted again. These are all our Warhammer pirates' ships. Tetsalo is still confused. You, forget it, it doesn't make sense to you, the Sphinx almost burst out of anger. Tetsalo was also confused. Is there anything wrong with what I said? At this moment, in the port, a small boat that was not very eye-catching compared with the surrounding large ships came to the port. Came in. What was hanging was indeed the flag of the Warhammer pirates. As soon as the ship stopped, a beautiful girl jumped out of the ship. Golden City, here I come, Nami shouted excitedly. The Golden City is the symbol of wealth, and she likes Bailey the most. She is about to join the richest pirate group in the world. This is so lucky. Then, Aces the figure also walked off the ship, looking at the magnificent Golden City with a shocked face, slowly bearing the aura of a rich man. In the past, although he had heard about how powerful the Warhammer pirates were. But, after all, the East China Sea does not have much influence from the Warhammer pirates. Although Kokonishi village is the only residence of the East China Sea Warhammer pirates, in real terms, it is just that. What does Ace think of this kind of news? He had only heard about it, but didn't really feel it. Now, when he saw the Golden City, what he felt was the actual gap. He was so poor that he didn't even have a boat. But just by looking at the Golden City, he felt it makes people feel that this is a gap that they may not be able to catch up in their entire lives. More importantly, this is just a project of the Warhammer pirates. And it is a project that has just been completed and has not been officially put into operation. What about the rest of the place? How powerful should the Warhammer pirates be in the New World? This kind of power, even exhausting one's own knowledge and letting one's thoughts fly, is probably unimaginable, right? The powerful shock brought about by this gap made Ace unable to calm down for a long time. Is this really something a pirate can do? Ace couldn't help but whisper. Aaron's sturdy figure walked off the boat with a smile, and said, how is it? Do you know how powerful we are? This is just the Golden City. Compared with Avalon, it's nothing. Kid, don't think of us as those rural pirates in the East China Sea. As pirates, we are first-rate. Before Ace could speak, a surprised voice came from far away. Aaron. What a kid. I haven't seen you for so many years and you haven't changed at all, the Sphinx called excitedly. Hearing this voice, Aaron turned his head suddenly, with tears in the eyes of the strong man, and shouted excitedly, sister. I'm back. Although it spanned many years. But the moment Aaron saw the Sphinx, he seemed to remember the night he left. Go ahead, sea man, gallop on the sea according to your own will, there is nothing wrong with it. These were the last words of farewell given to him by the Sphinx on the night he left. It was also these words that gave him courage. He wandered around on the sea for so long, and finally came back. Sphinx is not as tall as Aaron. After all, she is just a little Lolita, but standing next to Aaron, she looks very imposing. She reaches out and pats Aaron's arm. Sphinx looks like a big sister. The posture said no, there are still some changes, a lot stronger, how about it? My first warrior, has his strength not fallen? I promise I won't embarrass you, my eldest sister, Aaron said, taller. Humph, not bad, not bad. When you left to follow Tiger, I had a hunch that you kid would definitely come back. As expected, ha 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 ha, are you still reluctant to let go of our Warhammer pirates? Sphinx laughed. After chatting for a while, Sphinx looked at the two strange figures beside Aaron and asked, this little girl should be the one that Mr. Chui mentioned. A genius navigator who is particularly good at growing oranges, right? Who is this stinky man? It's me, my name is Nami. Nami looked at the Sphinx curiously and said. Although she had already heard of the Sphinx's name, she also knew that she had been traveling around the world for many years and was a veteran pirate. But, Why do you look so young compared to me? Ha ha ha, Nami, right? Very good, you are the one brought by Aaron, so naturally you belong to my mother. From now on, in the new world, you will be protected by my Sphinx. If anyone dares to bully you, just tell me, I will protect you. Shoot him in the head, the Sphinx said very righteously.